I'm going to talk to you about technology. Rethinking technology is the title basically of my presentation, because in working group 4, we work on the concept of technology and how the technology can contribute to regenerative indoor environment. So my name is Wilmer Pasut. I work at the University of Venice. So the objective, again, is to explore the potential and impact of technologies for a regenerative indoor environment in new and existing buildings. So basically, this drawing represent the concept. So the technology is really right here, the center of this scale, that it's something that impacts the indoor environment, impacts the user perception, but it's also something that can reduce the impact of buildings in terms of impact on the nature, impacts on the environment. So technology is the key element that link the building environment with the users and with the outdoor environment with our planet. So basically, to carry on our activities, we set up 5 main questions. What is a regenerative environment? It is a univocal or can have different nuances. How technologies can contribute to achieve a regenerative indoor environment? What is a good set of solutions? And what should be the environmental impact of a regenerative technology? So the first question is, what is a regenerative environment? It's a question that we pose to ourselves first, because I mean, we need to define what is a regenerative environment to define which are the best technology for that. So we start with this first question. We move from a general idea of an indoor environment that has a lower impact on user, that limits the negative impact, toward a indoor environment that has a positive impact on user, that can have a positive impact on the environment. So we try to promote this shift, this conceptual shift, toward moving from less bad to much better, something like that. So we define, basically, we look at which are the main aspects of an indoor environment, like indoor air quality, hygrothermal environment, visual environment, acoustic environment. And up to this point, I mean, it's fairly normal. Plus, we had a fifth one, which has human nature environment. So we also try to consider these sort of fifth elements that contribute to improve indoor environmental quality for the users. Based on this environmental aspect, we define some sub-aspects. So for what concerns indoor air quality, we have contaminants, outdoor air, and occupant satisfaction. For what concerns hygrothermal environment, we have temperature, humidity, airspeed, all those parameters that impact thermal perception, basically, and occupant satisfaction. Visual environment, it has the daylight, circadian rhythms, and occupant satisfaction. I mean, as you can see already, the occupant satisfaction comes always into play. And it's really, we try to put, again, the users at the center of our vision of a restorative indoor environment. So for those sub-aspects that I just presented you, we define some key performance indicator, some elements that we want to monitor or keep track of, or in a way to pose some limits or goal to improve the indoor environment. So for what concern, for example, contaminants, we define formaldehyde and PM 2.5 and PM10 as the main, probably the most important contaminants for what concern indoor air quality. Of course, are not just these, but these, in our opinion, are the most important. Then there is the percentage of satisfied people. For what concern the temperature, humidity, and airspeed, we, in that case, define which is standard worldwide and better than others, represent, can help to improve user thermal satisfaction without, at the same time, compromising energy efficiency of building. And we think that ASHRAE 55 in this is probably the best standard we can have right now. Daylight and circadian rhythms, we have the parameters. Background noise, we bring the parameters. And then there is the right to light with the percentage with Windows access to light. And then there is the concept of biophilic design and percentage of satisfied people. Here I report the parameters that we try to define as, in certain case, limits, and in other cases, goals for the numbers for the sub parameters that you saw before. On the right here, where is my? Okay, here it is. On the right here, as you can see, I report the sources for those numbers. So in certain cases, we refer to the World Health Organization, ASHRAE Standard 55, but also to some publication, to the well building standards. That is, again, it's a good standard from this point of view. So we report several, we look at several sources to try to find the best numbers. In some cases, we've been kind of strong, like percentage with window access to light. We define a 100% of inhabitants that should have this access to light, and I think it's fair. I mean, we cannot have a building that has a room with no access to light for the user inside. So going ahead, the second question is, it is univocal or can have different nuances? I mean, on some question I will be a bit faster because I don't have time to go through the entire results of this working group. So in this case, we saw from research that our expectation of our indoor environment is really shaped by our background, by our cultural background. So we know that what we expect and what we consider comfortable or desirable is different if we ask that to user living in, I don't know, in Norway, or to a user living in Spain. So for example, here it's report how the temperature in the living room or in bedroom is radically different for different countries, and how this is also changed according to the time. So we try to look at that, and we try to come out with answers to see how the cultural background may shape the desire of the user in terms of indoor environmental quality parameters. On this respect, we are also still working on other European projects, University of Venice, but also OIRAC Research, which was the coordinator of this of Restore. We are working on a very, very similar topic on this project culturally, and there I put the website if you want to get to know a bit more. In this case, it's a project on plus energy residential buildings that is looking at the topic from a cultural point of view. The third question is how technologies can contribute to achieve a regenerative indoor environment, and how to assess it. So basically technologies, and we are looking at technologies as elements impacting human perception and then impacting the key performance indicators that you saw before. So we look at technologies in terms of function, how the technology can bring a function that improves the environmental aspect that I listed before. So, for example, for what concerns indoor air quality, we have the function of remove or absorb pollutants or change air in the room. For what concerns hygrothermal environment, for example, we can provide desirable indoor conditions and so on. So, for example, looking from this perspective, we have several subsystems. We categorize technology in several subsystems. For example, one is building envelope. In this case, we look at building envelope may impact thermal comfort, may impact visual comfort, may impact acoustic comfort, may impact fresh air supply, and also maybe others. I mean, it depends on which elements you are considering. So looking at other elements, we have the interior elements, we have the active building system, and so on. So based on this categorization, we built up a repository for regenerative technologies, and here in the bottom you can see the link to this repository, which is open to public. The compilation of technological solution, and we put inside this compilation of technological solutions and best practice, we put method to collect and select solution based on literature, cost, participant experience, and case studies. So there you can find the technology, and you can get some highlight some inspiration for your work in case you need to find a specific technology with specific feature that may help to deliver a project, a design that is a restorative of a restorative building or regenerative restorative building. Here is how this repository looks like, and how you can navigate through it. Basically, an example, for example, there is this selfie facade system, which is an adaptable multifunctional facade. It's an internal element for thermoacoustic insulation. It has a ceramic honeycomb panel for air purification. It has phase changing material. So it's a very complex type of technology. And here I report some example of it. So in this case, we have this very complex element that can be, generally speaking, categorized as a building envelope, but it has impact on several other elements. So it is here in the category building envelope. It has function in terms of prevented losses, thermal buffer, thermal mass. It can help with air purification, as you saw, but also it may have PV panels, so it is categorized also under renewable energy sources. It has some heat exchangers, so it can be categorized also under HVAC. So this is how we try to build this this repository. So let me just go on. How to assess an indoor environment. So we try to look at what is available and which is the best practice to try to assess our regenerative indoor environment. So we have two main elements, which are the post-occupancy evaluation surveys and the field measurements. So field measurements, of course, are needed to measure anything related with the building in different phases of its construction, commissioning, but also operational phase and so on. The goal is really to measure anything that is related to building, because in our mind, building is something very stable there, but actually there is nothing stable in a building. Temperatures can change, indoor quality change a lot, occupation change, even building use can change. So we look at several technologies, several practices to define a good set of measurements that allow us to have an idea on really the restorative and regenerative performance of a building. And then there is also the human perspective. So as we know, standards are not successful in providing satisfaction to user. They have their each user have a different idea on what an ideal indoor environment is. So we need also to consider this, and we need to listen to understand users. So basically, we define these post-occupancy evaluation strategies. The focus of a post-occupancy evaluation can be classified into three areas: process, which regard the procurement, design, construction, commissioning, and so on; functional performance, which concern comfort, operational cost, and so on; technical performance, physical system, environmental system, and so on. And then we have this post-occupancy evaluation considers occupants factors in terms of perception and satisfaction in buildings and impact of behaviors of building performance. So here we have some information about the measurements, and then we have some information about the surveys to understand user perception. In the survey, we look at different type of surveys, which are cross-sectional survey, right now surveys or point in time, and longitudinal studies. Surveys are very key because the answer that you may get can be really unexpected. This is a kind of famous example from the Center for the Built Environment. They have this strong, quite well-known survey for buildings, mainly for office buildings. In this case, this chart represents the result from 351 buildings. 351 buildings that were expected to be designed according to ASHRAE 55 that recommend 80% of acceptability for the users in that building. But actually what came out is that the majority, a good amount of the users were unsatisfied with air quality, unsatisfied with noise level, temperature, sound privacy. So basically this tells you that the goal of your design may sometimes not match the final result from a user perspective. So post-occupancy evaluation surveys, they are very useful from this point of view, because you can get to know better what you can do and how you can act to improve either the next design, but also the condition in a building, an existing building. The fourth question is, what is good? It's a good set of solutions for a regenerative indoor environment. So before you saw the solutions, but then more solutions together then makes a set of solutions that is meant to deliver a restorative indoor environment. For this respect, we made this atlas of solution that you can find on the Restore website. Also, in this case, it's free. You can just get access to it and see what's there. In this website, in this atlas, we collect some examples, some cases that may somehow help to get an idea of what a good set of solution can be for a regenerative indoor environment. The final question, what should be the environmental impact of a regenerative technology? I'll be very, very fast on this final point. So far, we talk about technology and the impact of technology on the indoor environment and the impact of this technology on the users. But which are the other impacts of that technology? There is a life cycle assessment to do, there is a life cycle costing, but there is also a social and environmental impact that technology has. So we clarify this element, we clarify which are the analysis that needs to be performed to omnicomprehensively evaluate a technology from several aspects, from the aspect of the impact that the technology has on the indoor environment, but also from the aspect that the impact that technology has on the environment and has on the social life on Earth. All the information, a more detailed analysis or anything, can be found in this book, which is available to be downloaded from the COST website for free. It is, as the title says, is an inspirational guidelines for practitioners. So it tries to put there some food for thought and try to inspire better design, a restorative design for the next generation of buildings. Thank you very much.